There is something we must extract at this particular point regarding referring to the killings of three boys by Gentle the Yahoo.
Goshi, Malolo Mbadi Magene must receive it hot. Must receive it hot. Very hot. Very big hot. Very big hot. Very big hot.
Which has sparked wide reactions and mixed feelings. It is quite interesting. I have keenly observed that certain people commenting and reacting to this issue has not been able to pick pinpoint a particular incident that happened in the course of executing, of course, these three boys over the alleged involvement in robbery using the weapon of defense that was given to them to defend the people, but unfortunately, they wanted to take undue advantage of the same people by robbing people of their belongings. Now, there is something important we must take note at this particular time. For me, would it be that Gentle the Yahoo was overrun by emotions that he could not pay keen attention uh, to the body language and the expression of these three young boys? One among them was firm to say that he is not involved, he is not part of them. And eventually, Gentle could not make up time or could not give that boy an opportunity to defend himself. He said it before he was shot by Gentle, and the three other boys could not counter the position of that young boy. He said, Esokwemia, Esokumia, Esomuha, meaning or implying, I am not part of them. I wasn't involved. Even eventually, after he was shot, the first bullet, eventually he still said, Mpa Esogumia, referring to the Yahoo, that he is not involved. For me, I believe Gentle was overwhelmed by emotion. Possibly based on the allegations of people against him that he was involved allegedly in the acts of kidnapping, robbery, extortions. He do send his boys out, of course, to exploit the same people he claims they are protecting or fighting for the cause of Biafra. And possibly because of that anger, emotion is an anger. Extreme expression of such is very deadly and dangerous. When you allow anger to overwhelm you, it doesn't give you the sense of a balanced sense of judgment over issues and circumstances. Yes, nobody would, some people, of course, who understand the Igbo language possibly may not have paid attention to that. But that drew my attention from the very first day I watched that video. I listened repeatedly. I watched the video to ascertain what this guy was trying to say, and his courage in the face of fear or in the face of life-threatening situation. The guy already know that they are facing a very terrible situation. The other two guys, uh, indeed, you can see the reflection in their faces that, well, they knew they were guilty. But this particular individual is my concern. He maintained, Nine is Sogumia. I am not part of this. But eventually, Gentle never gave a listening ear or to prove further his innocency at that particular time. Or possibly uh, he may have found the two guys with this other person. Possibly, I don't know how, whether they are directly related or they are siblings or just mere friends. But such opportunity was not given because already he has been overwhelmed by that anger. Ordinarily, he may have sought for other way of disciplining them or to caution them or serve as a deterrent, whatever measure uh, they consider appropriate, because that is their own discretion or whatever they have believed or ought they have taken in that regard. But Gentle the Yahoo said that whosoever that will use my weapon to go and steal, to go and rob, whether in the major roads, in the isolated track roads, whether in people's house, will learn the lesson. He's trying to send a strong message to his other colleagues or the defense force or anyone who believe in the quest for the liberation or armed struggle for the restoration of the Biafran state, that you cannot misplace the priority. You cannot take for granted the sacredness of your commission or oath you have taken to defend the people and not to rob them of their belonging. Definitely, those guys that was alleged to have robbed or taken the belongings, the phones of those victims, possibly if the victims have resisted them, they would have by the people. Because when you study the people's expression and the rest of it, you know that they have the heart. Now, Umaka Wenobi, they have strong hearts. If those people they robbed of their belongings have resisted, they would have by the people. So some persons have, of course, justified their deaths because they use the weapons that was given to them in court to secure the people or of the location. They eventually use it to rob the people as a weapon of robbery. But my concern is there was among these three people one particular guy who said, which of course you can see now in the video, the screen being displayed, he said, I am not involved. Maybe people who have been watching this, have you not paid attention to that? Even in the face of fear, definitely, I believe those guys possibly must have been intimidated, or the fear of their Oga, the Gentle they who must have overwhelmed them, even from their words and the way they're expressing. Definitely, they felt regret, or they may have regretted their actions at that particular time And eventually, we are not given an opportunity, of course, for the second time. Well, that is the price of betrayal, whatever be the case. You see? And that is why the Bible says, good, evil company might corrupt good manners. So another lesson we will have to learn from here, after that boy, his courage, his boldness to make his stand, even in the face of death. He stood his ground. He made the world to understand that he's dying not because of his involvements, but because of a circumstances that he could not explain. He could not help himself from the circumstances already. Could it be an execution of an innocent or one presumed innocent? Because he said, I am not involved. A soquehum, I am not involved. Possibly they may have been friends, or as I rightly said, or sibling with the other person. That is a very sorry sight, honestly. It's a very gory sight, shooting people uh, with such close range and as such circumstances. What I neither support or justify whatever may have taken place, because humanity must be upheld, the sanctity of human life. But if anyone is taking life unjustly, what the Bible says, such persons should also reap whatever he or she is sowing. That is just the truth. So my major concern and attention was drawn at that second, that one guy among them, even after he was shot, he said, "Now, Soquem, I will, of course, leave that clip for you to watch. Soquem, I am not part of them. My hands are clean. I am innocent." The two guys never argued the innocency of that, or the assertion of that guy, and that particular boy. But regardless of whatever may have transpired, how gentle the Yahoo was overwhelmed by emotions, possibly people outside there who has been criticizing him, accusing him of involvement, and the rest of them may have triggered his anger to the point of he was not able to control or apply some discretion. Well, he decided the only way to serve or to send his message clearly to the audience is to get them executed in such a manner, and eventually uh, still let the video go viral. So if I were to ask a question to Gentle, or throw a question to Gentle at that particular time, what exactly was running through his mind when that young guy said, "Nai is so premier, I am not part of this"? Does it mean that Jethro do not understand or clearly hear what the guy was saying, and possibly do not further make a further inquiry regarding that particular position? It is important, no matter how emotional you may be, or you may have triggered your anger threshold, you should be able to be very careful not to make a costly mistake. that will endanger the life of an innocent person. Yes, it could happen to anyone, even in our homes, in in some gatherings and the rest of it, out of anger or provocations. Some persons might act beyond what is necessary. At the end of the day, they start living in regrets if the person still have conscience. You understand? There are certain actions you may have regretted doing as a result of provocation or anger. So it's important that uh, you also train yourself to refrain from anger. I know that is, of course, part of humans, but such could definitely be put under check. Or don't be rash to take actions or decisions when you're angry. If Gento have relaxed his mind or possibly uh, look for other better time to address this, even without the use of guns, of course, he may have made a better informed decision because that boy voice continue to revibrate. Of course, I am not part of them, but sadly, the damage has been done. If eventually this boy was innocent, could it mean there is no place for reconsideration? There is no place for uh, allowing people to express themselves and defend their innocency. Even in the military, there is what is called court martial. When a serving military personnel is being court martialed, he or she will also be given the opportunity to defend either his innocency or guilt in the course of establishing the guilt. Yes, they deserve a right to defend their innocency. And being that this guy spoke out, he have left a very strong message to the world, even at the point of death. He said, "Nah, Esokwemia," even when he eventually was shot, he repeated it, "Nah, Esokwemia," but that was too late at that particular time. Not just too late because he is guilty as he expressed his innocency, uh, not involvement in such move, but because the players involved were overwhelmed by emotion. Now, if you have a different perspective, or of course, opinion regarding this, let me know via the comment section. Now, it is important, yes, to send a message, a clear message to those sabotaging the cause of their own oath of allegiance and the rest of them, or protecting the people. That is not where I'm going. But my concern is drawn to that particular person who said, I am not involved. The fact he was possibly found among these three boys, perhaps that could have been the reason, or whatever be the case. I think there should be more explanations, and if that becomes necessary, but sadly, you can't resurrect the dead at this particular instance. But I am raising this concern so that people will deliberate. I have not seen people paying keen attention to that details of the video. Yes, some were characterizing, castigating, saying this is how Biafra, is that how Biafra will be formed? How could you be killing people you are meant to protect? How could you be, of course, robbing people you are meant to defend and the rest of them? So there are more reactions and, of course, reflections regarding this development, but it's a very disturbing development because life is involved. And unfortunately, this particular young boy was finally executed, was shot despite his declaration or expression of innocency at that particular time. Now, what do you think regarding this development? Another issue of importance we must take home is that people should be careful of the company they keep. Yes, this boy, as he expressed, definitely must be maybe innocent because he has the courage and we can understand his innocency even by the way the hairstyle the haircut he barbed was not the same, what has no similitude with the two other guys. You can see the innocency expressed in his facial expression and the rest of them. But you must also be careful with the company you keep. Tell me who is your friend, and I will tell you who you are. So, this is a clear message to people outside there. Be careful with the kind of company you keep. Try to make time, find out who is that your friends, who is that person you call your friends. And also, to a greater extent, it might be pretty difficult because, most especially if you have some family affinity or relationship or they are your siblings, it might be pretty difficult to separate each other uh, by virtue of your affinity. But even at that, you must be careful. It is your responsibility to make up time to know who exactly is your friend. Because I believe strongly it's possibly based on this that this young guy who claimed he's innocent may have been entangled in that process, but unfortunately was not given the opportunity to defend his innocency, or perhaps Janto who was overrun by emotions. Maybe you take time and go through that video again. You'll possibly get what I'm trying to say. And let me have your take via the comment section.